They have done their own, they are journalists, and we expect that they have done proper journalism to be able to come out in public and say, this policy is going to affect 6,000 houses by the way this man is going about it. So just give it time. At the end of the day, it's easy to say, oh, that's not what we mean. In fact, they even mentioned a particular structure that they said is going to come down.
That plaza.
Yes, the plaza. Just give it time. Between now and next month ending, we will know whether the plaza will come down or not. And at the point it will come down, that time we will remind them of this news. We'll remind them of the defense, and they will say, oh, what happened was we later checked our policy and discovered that, oh, the plaza. But then you're coming now to deny it. That's why it is always good, before you start saying anything in the public, do a proper homework. Come to the table and draw out a roadmap on how you want to go about this thing. Then seek professional advice. This is what I want to do. What are the implications? Security implications, economic implications, the adverse effects on the population of Abuja. All these things you have to put it into check, and then I said, okay, fine. Where do we also start from? Because you can have a good policy and start wrongly, and you begin to have adverse effects that you're not supposed to have. The reason for me why all these threats is coming immediately someone is taking office is because Abuja is a place of big interest. We have the big wigs and the big guys there. By the time you start threatening like this is, I think, what's his name? Adamawa State Governor. He's already giving accolades. More will come. Everybody who has interest will have to either agree to it one way or the other. You have to tell him he's doing a nice job. And you have to also go and tell him, look, whatever thing you're demolishing, make sure that it does not enter this area. So what I'm saying in essence is this, is that there's an accusation currently now that he's driving a bulletproof of over $300 million. He said his SUV he rode on that particular day. I don't think that the accusation is that that was what he rode on that day, but rather they are alleging that there is a 300 million naira bulletproof that has been earmarked for the minister. Well, the reasons why all these things are happening again in this country is to tell you how low we have gone.
All right.
Was it, which of these countries now? Their prime minister was riding on a bike to his office. And somebody stopped him. A Nigerian stopped him. Said, you're the prime minister, right? He said, yes. So you're on the bike? He said, yes. So, oh, my house is here and my distance, so I just like bike. None of our ministers will be able to do this. They always have to protect themselves because the road to climbing up to the political class at the top, you have to make enemies. In fact, your primary enemy is not even your political friends. They are the average Nigerians that you have deprived, that you have oppressed, that you have kept in a dejected position. If they see you on the road, will they hug you or they want to come and eat you up?
Now, speaking of the average Nigerian that the average politician may be worried about what they will say and all of that, on Wednesday, a sizable crowd of pro-democracy protesters backed Yeson Wike, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, in his threats to demolish illegal buildings in this FCT, claiming the former governor of Rivers State was merely assuring Nigerians he would follow the law. Well, during the press conference at his new office in Abuja on Monday, the minister did promise to tear down houses built illegally in the nation's capital, setting off a hornet's nest. Many FCT residents are alarmed by the threat because they fear that the former Rivers State governor will follow in the footsteps of Nasir El-Rufai, an ex-FCT minister who built a reputation for demolishing buildings in an effort to clean up Abuja. However, a group of protesters affiliated with the natives supported Wike, arguing that residents of the FCT should not be alarmed by the rumored threats of demolition by the minister. Edward Smart, the coordinator of the natives, revealed this to journalists on Wednesday in Abuja that Wike had only stated the obvious. We are reassuring Nigerians not to be afraid. The country has to become greater, and all of us will have to make a sacrifice. He said Wike is not threatening. Wike was only demanding and asserting to do the right thing. Let me just stop here because of time. Again, we have the natives. I don't know if they are the natives of Nigeria. They are a pro-Tinubu group, support group. So now, we've just been discussing details of the threat and even its present consequences. But fellow Nigerians, the people you think about that should do something, should realize that they are suffering or that this thing shouldn't be done in a certain way, came out to support Governor Nyesom Wike, who went into office. He hasn't even, no thought at policy, just dishing out threats, I'm going to do this. Of course, nobody said he shouldn't do that. He's a new sheriff in town, of course. Wike is naturally loquacious and always likes to exert himself. But we are saying, oh, this should actually follow this route and all of that. But this group seem not to understand that as far as they are concerned, he's on the right track and every other person should sit still.
For me, every protest group in Nigeria is a paid protest group. Because we've had serious issues that require protests in this country and nobody came out.
Like?
The fuel. Who is protesting against the fuel? Who is protesting against the hike?
No.
Who came at labor? How many days? That they went 24 hours and then they went back.
But they did.
They are the only people that are not paid and yet they can't even protest properly. If you see a proper protest in Nigeria, they are paid. What are you coming out to protest and reassure Nigerians? We have people are dying every day. Have they protested, any of them? See, we have daring issues. Did they even protest the Naira swap? And did these same people protest it? There are issues that have come up. Okay, educational subsidy that they say they have removed and all that. Did anybody protest it? We can go on and on. So when I see protest group coming out because of simple issues like this, these are not issues I'm even expecting a protest group to come out. I expect a simple opposition to simply say, oh, minister, as long as you're following the law, we're okay with it. But if in the course of carrying out your duty, you go beyond what the law has provided for you, we are going to challenge you in court. As simple as it is.
All right, let's...
Demolition, no demolition. What is important is that Abuja people should know their rights. They should know when their minister have crossed his boundary. They have their rights in court. They should be able to challenge actions they're not comfortable with. And one way or the other, the court will decide who is right or wrong. They should know that I don't
right.
give in for these protests. No, you should get there. Because it seems like now everything in the country is go to court. Nobody should be protesting.
But
they should challenge.
He's also a lawyer, by the way, so I think he's equal to the task.
Yeah, that's the more reason why he should be more prone in doing things in a manner that shows that you have received education to a certain class.
Okay, let's wrap up. In the criminal case brought against Ebefeli by the federal government, as a former central bank governor of Nigeria is looking for a plea deal. The suspended CBN governor is accused of conspiracy to commit procurement fraud and other offenses on 20 counts charges. He was charged along with a CBN employee named Sadatu Yaro and a company called April 1616 Investment Limited. Due to Sadatu Yaro's absence, Emefeli's court accused the arraignment that was originally scheduled for August 17 was postponed. The case was then adjourned to August 23. However, at the court section on Wednesday, as yesterday, neither Emefeli nor Yaro was present. The case was also not listed on the court's list. Well, sources said Emefeli is proposing a plea bargain agreement and the federal government is disposed to the arrangement. Let's just quickly look at this. On what grounds do you go for plea bargain? Has Emefeli been found guilty of any crime so far?
First of all, plea bargain is accepted. It's an accepted way of settling criminal trials right now. But for you to do a plea bargain, the first of all is that you are also agreeing and saying that I am guilty, I committed these crimes.
But that's what I'm asking. Yes, so far, has he been found guilty?
No, he doesn't need to be found guilty by the courts.
Okay.
He needs to accept with the prosecutor or with the prosecuting institution that yes, I did this crime. But in order for everybody not to lose out, because basically what happens with crimes like this, let me give you an instance. Assuming what is involved is about $50 billion. And then you take me through the court process and the court find me guilty and sentence me to 7 years imprisonment, let's say even 14 years imprisonment. You will not be able to recover the $50 billion. It's gone. Or you can come up with a plea bargain and say, oh yes, it's $50 billion. I've spent $10 billion. There's still $40 billion. Let me return what is left in my hand. And they'll just give me a slap on the wrist. And the prosecuting counsel will look at his chances and say, well, we can pursue this case and then suffer a very serious economic loss.
So basically, if this is anything to go by, if this rumor from the anonymous source is anything to go by, so it means that Emefiele accepting going for a plea bargain automatically means that some of the accusations against him have some substance of truth to it.
Yes, of course.
All right.
And then also the court will actually convict him. Plea bargain is not an escape from conviction.
Okay.
Yes, the court, because in the court, when you say your plea bargain, they will not find you guilty. But instead of putting in the actual penalty of the law, for instance, if the crime is 7 years, a plea bargain can actually, and that's one aspect of our Administration of Criminal Justice Act we may need to look into, because it subverts the law. Now, what happens is that the law says this crime is 7 years or a fine of 10 million naira, for instance. Then with a plea bargain, I can actually have 1 week of sweeping DSS office. Yes. That's how sweet it is. 1 week of sweeping DSS office. But the idea of that in our judicial system is basically victims of crime usually have nothing to take home. Plea bargain actually gives them opportunity where victims of crime becomes the center of settlement. So that way you can ask, okay, let me settle with the complainant and make sure that they are well taken care of. But ordinarily, before now, it is you against the state. Whatever that is gone is gone. So it takes additional investigation probably to find out where those monies are, which usually are not very easy to come by. It is easier if the person is telling you this is where I've kept the money.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister Kosi, for being part of ATM Blowout today. It's been an honor having you elucidate on national issues. Thank you once again. And that's been our show. If you missed any part of it, not to worry, we got you covered. Just check us out on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, and you get all the juicy details. You can also watch us live aside of Facebook and YouTube, where you can watch us live. You can also watch us live from our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. You can also watch us live by downloading our app, ATN Live. Remember that peace and unity are the pathway to progress. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.